Canonizing genocide. Why the proposed canonization of Junipero Serra is an act of white supremacy and genocide for the Nicanlaca people of the Western Hemisphere. Nicanlaca is a term that we are using to identify ourselves as indigenous. You may know us as Mexican, Central American, Native American, and South American, but none of those colonial terms truly identify us. Neither do the terms Hispanic, Latino, Raza, and Mestizo. This is a project of the Mexica movement. On January 19, 2015, we heard news that Pope Francis was planning to canonize Junipero Serra in September 2015. When we heard of this, right away we knew we had to take action. We know the truth behind these missions, and we know the truth behind Junipero Serra's actions against our people. As soon as we heard the news, we started researching to see what Archbishop Gomez of LA Cathedral had to say. He is actually celebrating and embracing the idea to canonize Serra. The following are some quotes on his behalf. Quote, Indeed, Padre Serra's canonization will be a beautiful day in the life of our nation. It will be a day to remember that our state and our country and all of the nations of the America are born from the Christian mission and built on Christian foundations. Another quote, We cannot judge 18th century attitudes and behavior by 21st century standards. But the demands of gospel love are the same in every age. And it is sad but true that, as John Paul II said in bringing the gospel to the Americas, not all the members of the church lived up to their Christian responsibilities. And the third quote, Whatever human faults he may have had and whatever mistakes he may have made, there is no questioning that he lived a life of sacrifice and self-denial. End quote. In all of these three quotes, Archbishop Gomez is openly defending Junipero Serra. We have to remember the acts taken by Junipero Serra. Let's look more into detail, more into depth about who Junipero Serra was. And to counter these quotes of Junipero Serra, let us ask ourselves if maybe we are criticizing and maybe we are viewing Adolf Hitler through the eyes of 21st century standards. Maybe we should be a little bit more understanding of the time of the Jewish Holocaust. Would he defend the Jewish Holocaust? Would he tell the Jews to not be so critical and judgmental of Adolf Hitler and instead try to understand him for living in his time because he was a man of his time? Would he be as compassionate towards Hitler as he is towards Junipero Serra? In this book written by Stephen W. Hackle, it is a biography of Junipero Serra. UC Riverside history professor Stephen Hackle, considered one of the world's leading scholars on Junipero Serra. This book was just published earlier this year. Hackle also confirmed Serra was a controversial figure because of the treatment of Native Americans that was permitted at the time. In an interview with CBS Local, these are some of the quotes from the actual scholar. Quote, Spanking or some sort of physical aggressiveness that was their way of correcting wayward people, and of course in today's world we would consider that to be unacceptable. I also should add that the missions were, at their worst, unhealthy places where native peoples died in large numbers. In that, I think those two things, the physical coercion, the diseases introduced by the Spaniards that really ran rampant in missions and reduced native peoples, I think that's probably at the heart of resistance or the opposition to Serra and his vision. And they added, while Serra may not have participated in this kind of aggressive behavior, it appears he didn't discourage it in others. We have to look at this and question ourselves. First of all, to this day, academia refuses to acknowledge what has happened to us as a genocide. But we have to remember that our people did not just die in the missions, that our people were victims of biological warfare, which started and mainly caused by the smallpox, intentionally used by Europeans, and other diseases. We didn't just die, we were killed. This is a great example of who Junipero Serra was. His biographer Hackle said that he didn't discourage it in others. But in this incident, we have an actual other friar that was describing his colleague Junipero Serra, and what he says captures his mentality and his view of our ancestors. This quote is found in American Holocaust by David Stannard. Quote, Father Serra had no patience for the Indians who still preferred not to accept his holy demand of them. Thus, on at least one occasion, when some of his Indian captives not only escaped, but stole some mission supplies to support them in their journey home, his lordship was so angered that it was necessary for the fathers who were there to restrain him in order to prevent him from hanging some of them. He shouted that such a race of people deserved to be put to the knife. End quote. Let me repeat the last section of that quote. He shouted that such a race of people deserved to be put to the knife. This is the man that they want to canonize. A man who was part of the Inquisition, a man who saw us as children deserving to be converted and evangelized with Christianity, and a man who ultimately saw us as a race of people who deserve to be put to the knife. This is who they want to canonize. Is this sacred to Europeans? Is this sacred to white supremacy? Of course it is. As soon as we heard of this, we took action. We started a rally at Olvera Street at the Junipero statue, and then we marched over to the LA Cathedral and demanded to speak to Archbishop Gomez regarding our protest. We did this on numerous occasions, and we will have our last one on Easter Sunday. He refuses to address us or respond to us or any other media outlet requesting an interview. To this day, he does not respect us enough to even consider or express himself directly to us or our concerns. These are some of the pictures that we took during our protest. At our protest, we stand with our signs facing the cathedral. A lot of our people come up, and in the majority, those who are our people are the ones who are the angriest, are the ones who are the most disrespectful towards us. All of this has been captured on tape. But we stand there firm. And we chanted, Serra was no saint. Serra was the devil. You can see the actual videos available on YouTube. But what gave way for such a history? What allowed, what gave them the power to do this, to commit the world's largest genocide? Europeans were very tactful in how they colonized us and killed us. They created laws that benefited them. They created laws that gave them power. They created laws that were backed up by the Catholic Church. For example, in this papal bull, Doctrine of Discovery of 1493, and I quote, the papal bull Inter Caetera, issued by Pope Alexander VI on May 4, 1993, played a central role in the Spanish conquest of the New World. The document supported Spain's strategy to ensure its exclusive right to the lands discovered by Columbus the previous year. It established a demarcation line 100 leagues west of the Azores and Cape Verde Islands and assigned Spain the exclusive right to acquire territorial possessions and to trade in all lands west of that line. All others were forbidden to approach the lands west of the line without special license from the rulers of Spain. This effectively gave Spain a monopoly on the lands in the New World. End quote. These are the documents that created to justify their actions. These are the documents that they created to moralize to themselves that what they were doing was a God-given right. This was a big aspect of white supremacy and their culture of invasion and genocide. This is also like manifest destiny. Whether Europeans were speaking to us in English or Spanish, they both spoke the language of genocide. Let's look into European history. Let's look at the human sacrifices that they committed under the pretense of their God and their religion. In this great illustration by the director and founder of the Mexica movement, Onintezcatlipoca, we see a glimpse into the bloodthirsty culture of inquisitions. European human sacrifices in the name of their gods. Their gods, Jesus, Jehovah, and Holy Ghost, demanded blood of fire. The evil gods of Christianity demanded human sacrifice of all of those who did not believe in these three gods, and those who did not believe in the Bible, angels and devils and saints and resurrection and heaven and hell. It is estimated that more than 300,000 heretics, human beings, were sacrificed by being burned alive or otherwise killed by the Inquisitions of Europe in the name of their gods, Jehovah the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Ghost, mystery entity. This is the culture that came with Europeans. This is the view that they held of anyone who was not Christian. These were the views imposed by none other than Junipero Serra. He is guilty of mass murder, rape, enslavement, colonialism, establishing concentration camps, missions, invasion, forced conversion, torture, genocide, theft, lies, ethnocide, abduction. He is a true monster of the missions. Junipero Serra was a monster. He was not a saint. We have to begin at the beginning of the destruction of our people. We have to remember that October 12, 1492 marks the beginning of the world's largest genocide in the history of humanity. 100 million of our people killed by the intentional use of smallpox as their weapon of mass destruction, including violence, terrorism, slavery, and starvation. 95% of our population was wiped out. In some areas, 100%. The 5% of us who survived were enslaved in these so called missions, where we were starved, raped, and continued to be purposely infected with European diseases. This brutal history remains hidden from the world in an attempt to silence the righteous call for justice and a complete liberation from Europeans. This system of white supremacy seeks to erase us from the planet with colonial terms like Hispanic, Latino, raza, and mestizo. To this very day, white supremacist academia still refuses to acknowledge this genocide. Because this was genocide, every action committed by the Europeans could very well fit into the definition of Raphael Lemkin's own creation and coined term of genocide. Who were the Christians that we encountered in 1492 and to this day? How did they treat us? They treat us the way they would like to be treated? Would they have liked us to go to Europe, invade them, kill their population, burn them alive at the stake, rape their women? Would they have liked us to treat them that way? The Christian behavior that we encountered was nothing but barbaric, was nothing but bloody, and it was all blessed by the Catholic Church. So we have today Junipero Serra being canonized. Another recent blessing of the Catholic Church on the genocide of our people. Their blessings continue on these genocidal acts. Some other crimes of the Europeans are slavery, the destruction of our universities, and rape. Slavery. Not many of us know that our people were enslaved, that those of us who survived only survived to be beneficial to Europeans. They were too lazy to do the work themselves once they had stolen our land, so they enslaved our population. They destroyed our universities. Yes, we had universities. Yes, we were at one point the most educated people in the world. We were the first people to have mandatory education for both women and men of all classes. And they destroyed our universities. They burnt our books. There goes knowledge of our medicine. There went the knowledge of the stars, the astronomy. There went our artists. There went our poets. There went thousands and thousands of years of knowledge. And it was all premeditated. They knew exactly what they were doing. They even created laws to keep us ignorant of our history. And of course, rape. We are taught to believe that it was all just a beautiful encounter of two worlds. We are glamorized. They're given the glamorization that Native women, Nicantlaka women, just threw themselves at the Europeans. When in reality, It was no Pocahontas story. It was a story of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of women by Europeans, raped by Europeans. This whole rape of our people created what we know today as mixed blood and full blood indigenous people. But we are still indigenous. We are Nicantlaka. Truth be told, the California missions were camps of rape and genocide. Missionary position was genocide. Rape the boys and make them cry. Smallpox to make others die. These were seen crimes of slavery, starvation, torture, rape, biological warfare. These missions were not created by the Spaniards. These missions were created by our people who were enslaved to build these missions. We consider Junipero Serra the devil, and Archbishop Jose Gomez of the LA Cathedral is his advocate, the devil's advocate, for defending the genocide and immorality of Junipero Serra's actions. That is why we will continue to protest Archbishop Jose Gomez. We will continue to describe him, to call him out for his Nazi like mentality, for his white supremacist agenda. Archbishop Jose Gomez, you are a white supremacist. You are celebrating the genocide of our people. You deem sacred a man who planned the annihilation of our people. This man was responsible for the killing of thousands of our people in the so-called missions that he helped create here in California. Shame on you, Archbishop Jose Gomez. Shame on you for being the modern day man to continue to bless these actions of genocide. These are examples of what took place to us, to our continent, to us as a people. We have an image of friars stabbing our faces and our heads with crosses, shoving the Bible down our throats. This is what they did. They were possessed, they were infatuated with the Catholic religion and with the Inquisition. The cultural genocide of our people. We have been stripped of our languages. We have been stripped of our names. Our original theology has been destroyed. They have destroyed our universities. They have destroyed the majority of our culture. And yet they paint this picture that they came to save us. Europeans have the savior complex. They see themselves as the saviors to the world. Well, why couldn't they save themselves in Europe when they were dying? Why couldn't they save themselves in Europe and fix Europe instead of fleeing Europe and going on and commit some of the worst crimes against humanity throughout the whole globe? Here in the bottom, we have a picture of what was El Templo Mayor, the Mexica city capital. They would destroy our temples, our sacred temples, to build their filthy churches. They would destroy our sacredness to build their filthy churches. They had no respect for our sacredness. They had no respect for our humanity. Junipero Serra initiated the killing of hundreds of thousands of our people in California, and he is now being canonized. We in the Mexica movement draw the comparison to Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler initiated the killing of millions of people in Europe. Why not canonize him too? If the Catholic Church is going to start the tradition and continue the tradition of canonizing people who impose Christian ideas, evangelizing the non-Christian world, why not add Adolf Hitler? That way they can have their couple saints of white supremacy. They could call them Saint Junipero and they can call Hitler Saint Adolf. We in the Mexica movement are taking action against this. It's not just about sitting around talking about how horrible this is. It's about us showing, physically going out there to demonstrate that we are not dead, to demonstrate that we have survived the world's largest genocide, and that we want the lives of our ancestors respected and honored, not spat on by the Catholic Church. Junipero Serra was a monster, not a saint. And we will let the whole world know that we are in complete opposition of this continuing blessing of our genocide. Stop the canonization of a monster. Junipero Serra acted like a monster, was a monster towards our ancestors. The crimes of Junipero Serra are obviously documented: genocide, enslavement, colonization, concentration camps. You have to be willingly ignorant not to see the truth behind this. Do some research, do some basic research. Don't let yourself be blinded by your Catholic faith that you cannot see the righteous call behind this protest. We say no to the canonization of a monster. We say no to the canonization of our genocide. They are trying to bless these acts of genocide against our people. If they are blessing acts of genocide, that means that they are continuing to condemn us into this life of white supremacy. They want to remind us that they are still the ones in control, that they are thankful that we were killed, thankful that we were evangelists, thankful that we have been killed in the millions. We invite you to check out our website, mexica-movement.org, for more information. There's also a page that we have created for this specific campaign alone. Join our efforts in educating our people and the rest of the world on the truth behind Junipero Serra and why we are fighting white supremacy. We are fighting for our survival as indigenous people, as Nicantlaca people, Mexican, Central American, Native American, South American. We are indigenous people. We are here on this continent. We never left. We have never left this continent. We will never leave this continent. We will continue to fight for our liberation. Junipero Serra's canonization is just another recent slap in our face by the Catholic Church. They want to continue to bless the genocide, and that is what they are doing. Join us in our efforts. Take action, physical action, not just talking about it. We need action. Our communities need action. Join us in our next protest. We will be posting all new events on our Facebook page. Thank you.